In my opinion, I don't think Nikon and Canon have been left behind. There's been a lot of discussion and talk about and written articles with regards to Nikon and Canon's slow progress into the mirrorless market. We saw Nikon enter this market with the 1-inch censored Series 1 cameras, and we've seen Canon also enter into the mirrorless market with their EOS M series cameras. Everyone wants to see a mirrorless Nikon and Canon camera. And I say everyone, is that everyone, or is it just the users of Nikon and Canon cameras, which I think is more to the point? Nikon entered the mirrorless market with the 1-inch censored camera, the Series 1 cameras, and basically they were panned. It was a market which people thought that they'd entered in incorrectly by creating this new sensor size. And the reason why they changed the style of the camera was the distance between the lens to the sensor. Something had to change, so they had to rebuild the camera and a new set of lenses. So in actual fact, Nikon, in terms of interchangeable lens cameras, have 3 systems: the Nikon 1 series, the DX, and the FX. Canon is a similar thing. They have 3 basic systems. So I've started to think about this, and I'm thinking, well, along the lines of regards to what do we want in a camera these days? And everyone talks about, I want a lighter gear, I want less in my bag, I want to be able to carry 2 camera bodies and maybe 3 lenses, but I don't want them as big as what they have been by these bigger manufacturers, the Nikon and the Canon systems, which we've had in the past. So I've just done a little quick check out here on the great website dpreview.com, and I've compared cameras that basically concentrating on the crop sensor view, the crop censored cameras, the DX range, particularly in the Nikon range. And I've had a look at the 3300 and the 5300 compared to the Sony full frame camera and the Olympus 4/3 sensor camera, the micro 4/3. And do you know what? They're the same size camera. The camera itself is the same size. The dimensions are between 133 by 93 by 84 and 124 by 85 by 45 for the Olympus. And also another thing worth considering, even the Panasonic GH4, that's on the larger size of these smaller mirrorless cameras. So Nikon have done something here. They've reduced the camera body size to counter the fact of the smaller mirrorless cameras that are being produced by the 4/3 guys and Sony. And obviously Fuji to that fact as well. Canon appear to still maintain a little bit on the larger size of 146 by 108 by 74 millimeters. So the point I'm trying to make here is that really at the end of the day, I don't think Nikon and Canon have really got left behind. Yeah, they're still using a mirror system, but they're not using mirrorless. Now, there's a lot of debate about which is the better camera. We know that cameras, a DSLR, focuses quicker and maintains focusing range quicker with subject matter, especially for sports photographers and nature photographers. So what has actually changed here? I think in actual fact is an attitude of mind. People like in actual fact to see a smart retro looking camera. In the case of the Olympus and the Fujis, that's exactly what the customer is getting. But with the Nikons and the Canons, they're going along the same tried and tested, just like Volkswagen, Mercedes do in the car manufacturers, of a tried and tested body fashion work, which suits all customers. And when people go into a shop and ask to look at a camera, invariably they will ask for a Nikon and Canon before they'll ask for a Sony, a Fuji, a Panasonic, or an Olympus. So that's how I'm seeing it at the moment. I too have got involved in the mirrorless market. I switched my gear out of Nikon into Fuji, mainly because I like the retro look of the camera, and I've found that I'm more suited to a rangefinder style camera. So I don't think Nikon and Canon have got left behind. And really, at the end of the day, you've got to think about it, that are they being pushed into a mirrorless market because of newer customers, or are they being pushed into a market by their present customers? And I think the latter is the case. Those that own Nikons and Canons want to have a mirrorless interchangeable lens system with either a 1.5 or full frame crop camera. But the technicalities of the camera body, which they've had before, the position of the sensor compared to where the lens is, the back element of the lens, they've basically got to redesign. And that's the problem which they've come across. This is how Olympus and Fuji have been able to jump the gun effectively by having cameras which have been able to produce smaller depth cameras with regards to their lens to the sensor distance. But if you actual fact look at the dimensions of a Nikon 3300 and 5300, there's nothing wrong with those cameras. Compared to the Olympus, and you compare them to the Fuji, they're the same dimensions. Now, maybe there's just maybe one issue here. The Nikon cameras in particular, which I know more about than I do the Canon, and I know the Canons also have the same situation, they do have extremely large batteries. Mirrorless cameras run the problem with, because they've got smaller batteries, smaller body, smaller batteries, they don't last so long. So you go out shooting for a day, you've probably got to consider, and if you want your camera on all the time, you've got to probably take around about 2 to 3 batteries with you. So it's worth thinking about these things when you're getting pushed along the line of, do I want a mirrorless camera or do I want a DSLR camera? Who's pushing you that way? Who's pushing you to say, I want a mirrorless? Is it the fact that you want to have a retro looking camera and you want to have the latest technology? And there's no doubt about it, the mirrorless camera are coming out with more technological advances than the DSLRs. But Nikon and Canon haven't done anything wrong here. They've just been sticking with what they've got. They have got such a vast stable of lenses that they cannot possibly lose that share of that market. So anyway, just a point in passing, have a look at the sizes of your mirrorless camera next time compared to a DSLR, in particular the Nikons. Compare the size of the body to the cameras, and you'll be surprised. They're the same size. The dimensions tell me on DP Review. And what's more, with Nikon and Canon, you've probably got more lenses to choose from. That's me, a Fuji user. Doesn't bother me. I'm very happy with the gear I've got. But I thought you'd be interested to know, in my opinion.